In this video, you'll learn how to use Claude projects to organize your work, build a knowledge base with documents and files, write effective project instructions, and collaborate with your team. We'll also explore artifacts, showing you when Claude creates them, how to share and publish them, and how to solve common issues you might encounter. Next, we'll dive into skills, explaining how they extend Claude's capabilities, including Anthropic's built-in document creation skills, and how to enable and manage them. Whether you're using Claude for personal productivity or team collaboration, these features can help you work faster and more effectively. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a clear understanding of projects, artifacts, and skills, and you'll be ready to use them confidently in your own workflows. Let's talk about projects, because once your work with Claude moves past a single question, this is where it really starts to pay off. A project is a dedicated workspace, one that remembers your context, holds onto your files, and follows your instructions automatically every single time you open it. So what exactly is a project at its core? Here's the foundation everything else builds on. A project is self-contained. It has its own memory, its own chat histories, its own knowledge base, and its own instructions. Picture it less like a single conversation and more like a dedicated room set up for one specific piece of work, where everything you need is already sitting there, waiting. Moving to the next piece, this is the one that saves the most time day to day. Project knowledge means you upload the relevant documents once, and Claude references them across every single chat inside that project from then on. No more attaching the same brand guidelines or the same research report every time you open a new conversation. Here's something that shapes every single reply you get back: project instructions. Set the tone, the expertise level, and the response style one time, and those instructions apply automatically to every conversation in the project going forward. It's less like giving Claude a one-off request and more like programming its behavior for this entire work stream. Now, you might wonder what happens as that knowledge base keeps growing. Here's the real difference worth remembering. As your project approaches the context limit, Claude quietly switches on something called Retrieval Augmented Generation, expanding capacity by up to 10 times while keeping the quality of every answer exactly where it should be. And for teams, there's one more layer worth knowing about. If you're on a Claude for Work plan, projects become genuinely collaborative. Share one with your teammates, and everyone works from the exact same context, the same instructions, and the same accumulated knowledge, instead of everyone starting from scratch on their own. So when does it actually make sense to set one of these up? Projects are built for the long haul, not for a quick question you'll never ask again. Say you've got reference materials you keep coming back to, meeting notes, survey results, historical reports, or requirements that never change, always formal, always cited, always following the same template, or a team that needs to work from the same foundation. Any one of those is a sign a project is worth the 5 minutes it takes to set up. Let's actually walk through setting one up, because it really is just 3 steps. First, set up your project. Click New Project, give it a name that actually describes what it's for, like Q4 Marketing Campaign. Add a short description for yourself and your teammates, and decide whether it stays private or opens up to your organization. Next, add your project instructions. This is where you tell Claude the context, the process, and the tone you want. Professional but conversational, always ending with a call to action, whatever fits your work. Once you save it, that shapes every single conversation in the project from that point forward. And finally, build your knowledge base. Upload the brand guidelines, the research reports, the examples of work you want Claude to emulate. And here's a small habit that pays off. Name your files descriptively, since Claude actually uses those file names to find the right document when it matters. Now, let's go a little deeper on how projects handle it when that knowledge base gets genuinely large. Instead of trying to load every single document into memory at once, Claude intelligently searches and retrieves just the pieces that are actually relevant to your question. And that's what unlocks up to 10 times the capacity without any drop in quality. You'll see a small indicator when this mode kicks in, but here's the real difference worth remembering. The experience itself feels exactly the same. You still upload, you still chat, you still get answers that are aware of your full context. For teams on Claude for Work, there's a real structure behind how sharing works. 3 permission levels cover it. Can-View gives read-only access with discussion rights, good for keeping people in the loop. Can-Edit hands over full collaboration power, letting teammates update instructions and knowledge directly. And Owner controls everything, including exactly who else gets to see the project at all. And sharing itself takes about 1 click. Add teammates by name or email, like paste in a whole list for bulk sharing, or open it up to everyone at your organization. They'll get notified, and it shows up right in their Shared With Me tab. Not sure where to start? Here are a few ideas worth borrowing. Picture a Q4 product launch, specs, competitive analysis, and messaging notes all in one place, so Claude has the full picture for any draft or question. Or research support, centralizing competitive reviews, user research, and customer feedback so Claude can synthesize sources and keep every recommendation consistent. A client account hub works the same way. Brand guidelines, past deliverables, and communication history together so tone and context stay consistent across every proposal. An event planning workspace can hold venue contracts, speaker bios, and attendee data, letting Claude draft run-of-show documents and post-event reports that stay on theme throughout. And a job description generator built from your past postings and team charters helps you draft new roles that actually reflect how your team really works. Before you go set one up yourself, a few habits are worth carrying with you. Start focused on one specific use case rather than trying to build the project that does everything. Keep the knowledge base current, since outdated documents lead to outdated answers. Write instructions that are genuinely specific, not vague. Name your documents descriptively and keep related files grouped together. And when you're asking a question, reference documents by name to help Claude focus exactly where you need it. So here's the through line underneath all of it. A project was never just a folder. It's memory, knowledge, and instructions that stay attached to the work itself, so every conversation you open picks up exactly where the last one left off. Let's talk about what happens when Claude builds you something too big to just live in a chat bubble. That's what artifacts are for, a side window where your work turns into something real instead of staying trapped as paragraphs you'd have to scroll back through to find. So what actually makes something an artifact? Think of it less like a reply and more like a workspace that sits right beside the conversation. Instead of digging a working prototype out of a wall of scrolled past text, you get it rendered live in its own pane, ready to look at, click through, or hand off right next to the chat that built it. Claude decides on its own when something earns that treatment, and there's a rough line worth knowing. A few signals push it that way. It's substantial enough to stand alone with somewhere around 15 plus lines as a loose marker. It's something you'll probably tweak or reuse later. It's complex enough that it doesn't need the surrounding chat to make sense. And frankly, it's just the kind of thing worth coming back to. Now, let's get into the actual shapes these things can take, because there's more variety here than people expect. Picture needing a written document, say a client proposal outline, and that becomes a text artifact you can keep editing. Need a script that batch renames a folder full of files? That's a code snippet, ready to copy straight into your project. Want a landing page for a weekend workshop? That's a full web page, built and rendered on the spot. Need a matching set of app icons? Vector graphics render crisp at any size. Sketching an org chart for a new team? That becomes a flow diagram you can adjust. And if you want something people can actually interact with, say a bill splitting tip calculator, that becomes a live working widget, not just a picture of one. Worth flagging before we move on. Office files take a different road entirely. Word documents, spreadsheets, slide decks, and PDFs don't render in this side panel at all. They're handled through a separate file creation path and handed to you as a plain download instead. So how do you actually get one of these built? You describe it like you'd explain it to a person, nothing more formal than that. Say you type, build a calculator that splits a restaurant bill by number of people and lets me adjust the tip percentage. No special syntax required. Claude reads that and decides on its own whether it deserves its own window. And here's the real thing worth remembering. If it doesn't show up automatically, just say so directly. Show that as an artifact works every single time. Once it's open, here's what you can actually do inside that window. Flip between a live preview and the underlying code whenever you want to see how it's built. And when you're ready to use it somewhere else, copy the content straight out or download it as a file to your computer. Now, what happens once you've got something worth keeping? You've got 3 ways to let it travel. For personal use, just copy or download it. If you're on a team or enterprise plan, you can share it internally so colleagues can open it too, staying behind your organization's login the whole time. Or, and this works on any plan, you can publish it so anyone with the link can view and use it without needing a Claude account at all. Here's the real difference worth remembering. Publishing only makes that one specific version public. The conversation that built it stays completely private. You can pull it back down whenever you want, and it won't turn up in a search engine. Someone actually needs the link to find it. And once it's public, something else becomes possible. Someone else can open it inside their own conversation and remix it, tweaking the layout, swapping out the logic, making it theirs, without ever touching your original. Let's close with a few habits that make all of this land better on the first try. Precision beats brevity every time. Think about the gap between build me a tracker and build a workout tracker that logs sets and reps per exercise, then totals the week. The second version gets you something usable immediately instead of 3 rounds of guessing back and forth. It also helps to say who it's actually for. Telling Claude a checklist is for a brand new hire versus for the finance team changes the tone, the depth, and the layout it reaches for. The audience shapes the whole output. And when you want to refine something, change one thing at a time. Swap the color scheme, then add a feature, then fix the edge case. It's far easier to spot what actually worked when you're not changing 5 things simultaneously. So here's the through line tying all of this together. An artifact was never just a longer answer. It's your work, made real and reusable, sitting right beside the conversation that built it, ready for you to use, refine, or hand off the moment it's done. Let's actually build one of these from scratch, right inside a real conversation. Here's an empty chat, nothing built yet, just a quiet cursor waiting for a description of what you want. Picture typing something plain and direct. Build a calculator that splits a restaurant bill by number of people and lets me adjust the tip percentage. That's it. No special formatting, no syntax to get right. Just describe it the way you'd explain it to a coworker standing next to you. The moment that request goes in, notice what happens. Claude doesn't just answer in the chat, it recognizes this is substantial enough to earn its own space, and a panel opens up right beside the conversation to hold it. And here it is, a working calculator, live and interactive, sitting in its own window. Enter a bill total, a number of people, and a tip percentage, and it calculates the per person total right there. This isn't a screenshot of an idea, it's the actual thing, ready to use immediately. Worth trying right here. Flip over to the code view. Same artifact, same window, just a different face of it. Toggling between preview and code means you can see exactly how something works, not just what it looks like. Once you're happy with it, here's what you can do with it. Copy the content straight out to paste somewhere else, or download it as a file to keep. Both are one click, right from the same panel. Now say you want other people to actually use this thing. You've got 3 paths from here. Keep it personal with a simple copy or download. Share it inside your organization if you're on a team or enterprise plan, so colleagues can open it using their own login. Or publish it publicly, so anyone holding the link can open it. No account required on their end at all. Here's the moment that matters most. Publishing asks you to confirm first. It's a small pause, but an important one. Only this specific version goes public. Your actual conversation stays completely private, and you can always take it back down later. And once it's live, here's the real payoff. Other people can open that same link, dig into what you built, and remix it into something of their own, a different layout, different logic entirely, without ever touching your original version. One conversation, one small description, and what comes out the other side is something real enough for someone else to build on. Let's talk about agent skills, folders of hard-won expertise that Claude reads only the moment a task actually calls for them. That last part matters more than it sounds like it should, and we'll get to why. So why bother building one of these in the first place? Start with the most obvious payoff. It turns a generalist into a specialist. Package the workflows, the context, and best practices for a domain into one reusable folder, and Claude starts approaching that kind of task like someone who's done it 100 times already, not someone guessing from scratch. Moving to the second reason, it saves you from repeating yourself. Instead of retyping the same guidance into every new conversation, a skill loads on demand. Write the expertise down once, and Claude reaches for it automatically whenever the task actually fits. And here's a third benefit worth knowing. Skills stack. Say you've got a job that spans a few different domains at once. Cleaning up data, building a chart, formatting a slide. Skills combine, so Claude can pull from several of them in a single multi-step task instead of being boxed into just one. Now, here's the part that actually makes all of this efficient: how the loading itself works. Nothing sits in context until it's genuinely needed, and that happens in 3 stages. The first stage is barely a cost at all. Say you install something called invoice processing, with a one-line description of what it handles and when to use it. That tiny bit of metadata is what stays loaded, cheap enough that you could install dozens of these without paying a real penalty. Only once your actual request matches that short description does the second stage kick in, the real instructions. That's the full step-by-step workflow, and it's kept lean, typically under about 5,000 tokens, so it doesn't crowd out everything else in the conversation. And then there's a third stage for the extra files. Think about a template for generating invoices, or a small script that fills one in automatically. Claude only opens what the task actually calls for, and here's the real difference worth remembering. When a script actually runs, its code never enters context at all. Just the result, something as short as invoice validated. Let's talk about why this architecture actually pays off in practice. First, only the file the task needs gets touched. A skill might bundle a dozen reference documents, but if your job only needs the sales schema, that's the one file that loads. Everything else just sits there at 0 cost. Second, scripts run without their code ever loading in. Only the output lands in context, which is far cheaper than having Claude write out that same logic from scratch every single time. And third, there's no real ceiling on what you can bundle. A skill can ship a mountain of reference material, and none of it costs anything until something inside actually gets opened and read. Let's walk through what this looks like in practice. Say you ask Claude to summarize an invoice you've just attached. It checks that request against every installed skill's short description, finds invoice processing is the match, reads its instructions, decides the template file isn't needed this time around, and gets straight to work. No wasted steps. So where do these actually run? On the website, the built-in document skills just work the moment you're creating a file. No setup required. Want your own? Upload it as a zip file in settings, though it stays tied to your account rather than shared across your whole team. Through the API, it works a little differently. Reference a skill by its ID, and it runs inside a sandbox container with no network access and no installing packages on the fly. But once it's uploaded, everyone in that workspace can use it. And in the terminal, it's about as simple as it gets. Drop a folder with its instructions file into a personal or project directory, and Claude discovers it entirely on its own. No upload step, no API call, just files sitting exactly where they belong. If you want to build your own, there are really only 2 things it needs: a short, lowercase name and a description that spells out what it does and when to use it. Because that sentence is exactly what Claude compares your request against to decide whether the skill actually fits. One last thing worth taking seriously: treat installing a skill like installing software. A skill can direct Claude to run code and use tools on your behalf, which means one built with bad intentions could push it towards something that has nothing to do with its stated purpose. Only use skills you built yourself or got directly from Anthropic. And if you ever need one from somewhere else, read through every bundled file first. especially anything that reaches out to an external address. So here's the through line tying all of this together. A skill was never extra context you're paying for upfront. It's expertise that waits quietly on the file system, costing you almost nothing until the exact moment a task actually needs it.